This is Presentation 6 of the New York State Grades 3 to 8 ELA Rubric and Scoring Training Series, the Grades 4 through 5 ELA Extended Response 4-Point Rubric. This section of the training will explain the use of the new 4-point rubric for scoring extended responses. Please have a copy of the rubric handy. You may wish to make notes directly on the rubric. While writing from a text requires reading comprehension skills, the 4-point questions are more focused on writing, crafting an extended essay, than are the 2-point questions. While each question is aligned with a specific Common Core standard, the rubric lists all the standards that are being assessed by the 4-point questions. Remember that there are multiple ways to respond to each question and no one correct way to respond to the question. If you do not have a separate copy of the 4-point rubric, you can find one in the Extended Response Guide Set handout. You may wish to remove it from the handout packet so that you may refer to it while reviewing the student responses. The rubric looks like this. We will look at each score point in detail, but remember, you are not assigning 4 separate scores to each response, but one overall holistic best fit score. The score points are made up of all the criteria, and they're in the columns that go down the rubric. Please take several minutes to read through the entire rubric and then, using a highlighter or pen, mark the descriptors that change as you move through the score points for each of the categories. You should pause this presentation until you've completed the activity. Now we're going to look at each score point in detail. As we go through the rubric, pay attention to the descriptors you noted in the earlier activity. The first criterion we're going to look at is content and analysis. That's the extent to which the essay conveys ideas and information clearly and accurately in order to support an analysis of the topics or texts. This is used to assess Writing Standard 2 and Reading Standards 1 through 9. At a level 4, essays clearly introduce a topic in a manner that follows logically from the task and purpose. At a level 3, essays clearly introduce a topic in a manner that follows from the task and purpose. Notice the difference is that level 4, it states that they follow logically. At level 3, it just states that it follows from the task and purpose. At level 2, the essays introduce a topic in a manner that follows generally from the task and purpose. And at level 1, introduces a topic in a manner that does not follow logically from the task and purpose. The second bullet point, at a level 4, essays demonstrate insightful comprehension and analysis of the texts. At a level 3, they demonstrate grade-appropriate comprehension and analysis of the texts. At a level 2, they demonstrate a literal comprehension of the text. And at a level 1, demonstrate little comprehension of the texts. At a level 0, they demonstrate a lack of comprehension of the text or task. The second criterion is the command of evidence. That's the extent to which the essay presents evidence from the provided texts to support analysis and reflection. It's used to assess Writing Standard 2, Writing Standard 9, and Reading Standards 1 through 9. A Level 4 essay develops the topic with relevant, well-chosen facts, definitions, concrete details, quotations, or other information and examples from the texts. At a Level 3, they develop the text with relevant facts, definitions, details, quotations, or other information and examples from the text. So it's relevant, well-chosen facts at a level 4 and just relevant facts at a level 3. At a level 2, the essays partially develop the topic of the essay with the use of some textual evidence, some of which may be irrelevant. And at a level 1, they demonstrate an attempt to use evidence, but only develop ideas with minimal, occasional evidence, which is generally invalid or irrelevant. At a 0, essays provide no evidence or provide evidence that is completely irrelevant. The next criterion is coherence, organization, and style. That's the extent to which the essay logically organizes complex ideas, concepts, and information using formal style and precise language. This criterion is used to assess Writing Standard 2, Language Standard 3, and Language Standard 6. The first bullet in Level 4, essays exhibit clear, purposeful organization. At a level 3, they exhibit clear organization. At a level 2, they exhibit some attempt at organization. At a level 1, they exhibit little attempt at organization, or attempts to organize are irrelevant to the task. And a level 0 exhibits no evidence of organization. The next bullet point at a level 4, essays skillfully link ideas using grade-appropriate words and phrases. And at 3, they link ideas using grade-appropriate words and phrases. At 2, they inconsistently link ideas using words and phrases. At 1, they lack the use of linking words and phrases. And at 0, they exhibit no use of linking words and phrases. The next bullet, essays use grade-appropriate, stylistically sophisticated language and domain-specific vocabulary for a level 4, while at a level 3, they use grade-appropriate, precise language and domain-specific vocabulary. At a level 2, they inconsistently use appropriate language and domain-specific vocabulary. At a 1, they use language that's imprecise or inappropriate for the texts and task. And at 0, they use language that is predominantly incoherent or copied directly from the texts. At a level 4, the last bullet, essays provide a concluding statement that follows clearly from the topic and information presented. At a level 3, they provide a concluding statement that follows the topic and information presented. At a 2, provide a concluding statement that follows generally from the topic and information presented. At a 1, they provide a concluding statement that's illogical or unrelated to the topic and information presented. And at a 0, they do not provide a concluding statement. The last criterion is control of conventions, the extent to which the essay demonstrates command of the conventions of standard English grammar, usage, capitalization, punctuation, and spelling. This is used to assess Writing Standard 2, Language Standard 1, and Language Standard 2. At a level 4, students demonstrate grade-appropriate command of conventions with few errors. At a level 3, essays demonstrate grade-appropriate command of conventions with occasional errors that do not hinder comprehension. At a level 2, they demonstrate emerging command of conventions with some errors that may hinder the comprehension. At a level 1, they demonstrate a lack of command of conventions with frequent errors that hinder comprehension. And at a level 0, essays are so minimal they make the assessment of conventions unreliable. Now, there's one more thing you want to take a look at on this rubric, and that's the bullet points at the very bottom of the rubric. There are 4, and you have to pay attention to them as you're scoring the essays. The first bullet point states that if the prompt requires 2 texts and the student only references 1 text, the response can be scored no higher than a 2. The next one, if the student writes only a personal response and makes no reference to the texts, the response can be scored no higher than a 1, and responses that are totally unrelated to the topic, illegible, incoherent, or blank should be given a 0. Likewise, a response totally copied from the texts with no original student writing should be scored a 0. As you apply the rubric, remember that it is to be used holistically. You are not assigning 4 separate scores to each response, but one overall holistic best fit score. All the criteria must be considered. Very rarely will a response meet every bullet point for any specific score point, and one bullet point does not a score point make. You will need to find what the best fit score is for each response. You should remove the rubric from the packet so that you're able to refer to it when reviewing the 4-point student responses. Knowing the rubric is necessary to score accurately, but you'll also need to become familiar with the guide papers provided as well. Think of it like this. The rubric tells us what a response at each score point looks like, but the guide papers show us what responses look like at each score point. Scorers will need to reference both their rubrics and their guide papers while scoring. We'll take a look at the guide papers in another presentation.